Hello again, and thank you for watching another one of my videos. In this video I'm going to be painting the Alps in watercolour, and it's a big piece of paper. It's A3 in size, so there's going to be a lot of painting, and I'm starting off by mixing up a lot of probably the main colour of the entire painting, and that's ultramarine, light red, some cerulean blue and a little bit of Payne's grey. Gives you a nice grey bluey colour. And I wanted to try this technique that I've seen where you paint the watercolour onto cling film and then you can scrunch it up on the page and you get these unique abstract patterns. Now over the course of the painting I changed my mind, and basically you can't really see it anymore because it wasn't what I really wanted to do, but I'm definitely going to plan on using it in the future. It's a good technique. I mean, you can see from how I'm using it that you can create a lot of abstract shapes, and it does kind of look like a mountain if you blend them out right with the brush. But we'll get to the blending out part. For now, I'm just painting the watercolour onto the cling film. I'm using a brush called a hake brush. Hake, yeah, something like that. It's a very cheap brush you can buy from any good art store. And then once I've done that, I'm flipping the cling film around and I'm just dabbing it on the page. As you can see, it creates all these abstract shapes, and all I'm trying to do, I'm looking at my reference, and one side isn't as covered in snow as the other side, so you've got a lot of rock surfaces that you can see. I'm just trying to match the shape as best I can to the reference photo that I'm looking at. And you can also reload the cling film with paint as many times as you want, so it's good for multiple uses. And like I said, in the end I didn't really use it, but I think it did help me to come up with the shapes of the mountains and stuff like that. And I could have used it, but the way I am, I decided that I wanted to go a bit more detailed than what I was producing with the cling film. But I suggest you have a go at it and try it yourself. It really is a good technique. Okay, so now it's time for that softening and blending that I was talking about at the beginning of the video, and this is basically me coming in with my hake brush and just softening all them harsh abstract shapes I just created with the cling film. And I'm doing this by completely rinsing the brush out so it's clean, put it on a bit of tissue paper so it's damp, and I'm just brushing it along lightly to create the shapes of the mountainside. And as you can see, by doing this I'm starting to get some really nice mountain shapes. You can also see that when I add the damp brush on top of the paint and it spreads, because it becomes diluted, it's really light, so you get a nice light shadow, which is perfect for snow-capped mountains, because even though there will be shadow there, obviously, you don't want it too heavy for snow because it will take out the illusion of the whole thing. I did try to keep in some of them abstract shapes by, not blending them or softening them out, but honestly I don't think many of them made it to the final piece. But I would say that, they must have influenced it in some way. Okay, so I've sped the video up now to about 8 times the speed because, the video says it took me about 3 hours to paint it. Over many days, but you know what I mean, and you'll be sitting there forever. So I've sped this a little bit up to about 8 times the speed so that you can see what I'm doing more quickly. And I'm basically just using that hake brush again because it's nice and flat and soft. You can get them in multiple sizes as well, so you can get a really big one if you've got a really big painting. And I'm using the same colours. You saw me lay down a lot of red and a lot more Payne's grey in there because I wanted it a bit more purple. And I'm coming down on the side of the mountain where the snow hasn't really landed. If you can imagine, the snow is probably blown in from your left, for example. And I'm just creating the shapes on that side, and I'm slowly building up the layers till I get darker and darker and darker. And the brush you can see me using right now, I think is a number 6 round or a number 4 round. And it's mainly a detail brush. I don't really want to add details yet, but if you can see, there's like a sharp peak that comes all the way down the middle and wraps to the left onto the other peak, and I wanted to put that in before I started to work on the rocky side of the mountain. And I think I come back in with the cling film again with a much darker colour, mainly Payne's grey and ultramarine blue. Like I said, I've given the cling film another go with a much darker colour, Payne's grey this time, to create the rocky side. And then I'm coming in with my round brush and I'm softening, and the paint that's coming off the softening of them abstract shapes I'm reusing to create more shadow on the mountain, and I'm also dipping into that dark blue you can see on the left hand side, using that to create more shadow. And I'm also using the detail brush, the same brush I'm using now, the round number 4 or number 6, whichever one it is, to create pockets of detail to help me visualize this peak of this mountain a bit more, mainly at the top. And I'm doing that by just dabbing and dashing with a brush that's loaded with Payne's grey. It'll add a lot of contrast because it's so far away. I don't need to add detail for there to be detail, if that makes sense. As you can see, it's looking much better with each layer that's been painted. You can start to see the shape of the mountain much better. And right now I've switched my brush to a number 10 round, I believe it is. It's a bigger brush so I can lay down more paint, makes it quicker, much easier. I brought in that like steely bluey grey colour again, and also painted that in the background. You can kind of see some background mountains, which will bring my mountain more forward so you can see it better, you know. And that's exactly the same colour, just really washed out with water. Obviously more water that you add to watercolour, the more diluted it becomes, and you get a lighter version of that colour. And that's what I've done there. Something else that I should probably mention, that you'll see me do quite a lot in this painting, is that if you notice in my right hand I've got a piece of tissue paper, and whenever I lay down the colour with my left, I'll take that tissue paper and lightly swipe across the paint in the direction that I want the mountain to be, so normally down to the right on the rocky side of the mountain, and this will smear the paint in that direction and give you like a feathered edge, so it kind of blends out into the page. I do that a lot. I just thought it'd be a good idea to throw that in. And all I'm doing right now is just detailing the bottom half of the rocky side of the mountain, because there's 2 different levels of rockiness, if that's a word. If this mountain, the bottom half is more snow-capped, but there's a few rocks here and there, so you still got the shadow because the light's coming from the left, with a few rocks. And then the top half is really rocky with a few bits of snow just capping the rocks, so I had to use a different technique. And that technique was using an old card, like a bank card or a credit card. I'm using a Nando's card that I don't use anymore. And this is where I said that I didn't really stick to the cling film abstract shapes that are laid down, because I changed my technique from how I wanted it. And I'm going to tell you how I did this. The best way to do this is lay down your paint, whatever colour it may be. I'm using ultramarine and Payne's grey for this, and you lay it down, just let it dry a little bit. You don't want to do it when it's really wet, because if you start doing it when it's wet, all the paint runs back into where you scraped it off. So you want it to dry a little bit, and then you take the edge of the card and you start scraping out shapes. Just scrape out angular shapes in the direction that you want them, and it creates the illusion of rocks, and it works really, really well. For me personally, how I like to paint, I preferred this look, so I kept it, and they do kind of look abstract in their own way, just not as abstract as the cling film. Like, I think you really had to think about what you're looking at with the cling film, whereas these shapes you can clearly see that the rock's on the edge of the mountain. And there are some drawbacks to this, like right now it looks really dark, lots of contrast, looks really nice, but watercolour dries a lot lighter than what you lay down, so you'll see in a minute that they dry really light, so then you have to add another layer and another layer until you get the really dark contrast that you want. I also should explain the fan brush. I thought I'd just try this out because when you add paint to a fan brush the ends get really spiky, and I thought that if I just paint it on the end they'll come up with really dynamic shapes as well to complement the shapes that are made with the card. It worked okay, you got some really sharp shapes, so if you want to try that you can do. They're really good at painting in clouds as well, so yeah, give it a try. Okay, so let's talk about gouache, which I always plan to use from the beginning. I thought it would be much easier to paint in the snow on the rocky side that way, and I can get some really harsh edges, which is what I wanted. I've taken that Nando's card and I've snipped off the end so it's smaller, and I've dipped it in the tub of gouache. You can see it on the right hand side, and I've just gone along all over the painting. I've just like spreaded it and just dabbed it in to create all these cracks and crevices of snow, and you can see it works really well. It really creates the illusion of snow on top of these rocks on the dark side of the mountain. Now we're on to my favourite part of the painting. The reason why it's my favourite part is because it adds life to the world I've just painted, and I'm sorry that I didn't point my camera further down, I should have realised, but if you look at the bottom of the painting you can see me painting in 3 hikers. It was originally going to be 3 hikers, but I changed my mind because the 3rd hiker, who's further in the foreground, he looked too big compared to the other 2. They might be walking in formation, so I just got a damp brush and brushed him away and turned him into snow and just had the 2 hikers. So the best way to paint in human beings that are, far away visually is to just mix up some dark paint. I use Payne's Grey, neat, straight from the tube. They're already in the foreground, so they're going to have a lot of contrast anyway, but they are smaller than the mountain. So the best way to do this is to practice. Unfortunately, you basically just want to paint in the general shape of a human body. I would say if you're starting out, draw a stickman, and then draw a torso on the stickman, and then fatten up his arms and his legs. When it comes to painting in the skull, leave a gap between the skull and the shoulders. Just don't put anything there, because if you put paint where the neck would be, it looks like the head is sunk into the shoulders and it doesn't look realistic. They're basically the tips I've got for painting the hikers. My best tip is to basically just practice on scrap paper before you do it to your artwork, and you should be okay. As you can see, I'm mixing up a reddy orange on the palette, and my idea was I was going to have a red jacket on a hiker and a blue jacket on a hiker. I mixed light red and alizarin crimson together, and I'm just going to basically dab it where the jacket would be. I don't need to be detailed, the mind, or fill in the blanks on its own. It just needs to represent the jacket. Okay, so your next job, so that your hikers actually look like they're hiking in the Alps, is to add shadow in the direction of where the light is coming from. And this will help your hikers be more grounded into the painting and not just sitting there. And all it is Payne's Grey, heavily diluted in water, so it's really light. Better off to start light, and I'm just painting a bit where the feet would be, and then I'm dragging it out. And then I'm also using a bit of tissue paper and I'm wiping it away so you get that feathered effect. Also the rope that's coupling them together, you need to put that on as well. And you do this through multiple layers, let it dry, and then do it again, let it dry, do it again, and you want to get darker closer to the hiker and lighter coming away. And the distance of what the shadow spreads is obviously going to be on what type of sun is there. You know, I kind of looked at it like it's probably just above them a little bit, not really above the heads, because obviously you get a shorter shadow. It's kind of just above them, so you get a nice long streak, if that makes sense. But yeah, as you can see, it's helped to ground the hikers, and they really look like they're hiking up the Alps now. So I've actually heightened my camera now so you can see more of the painting, which I should have done in the beginning, but I'm an idiot. What can I say? And what I'm doing now is I've decided that the gouache on the rocky side of the mountain is a bit too strong, and I'm going to paint over it with a bit of ultramarine, cerulean blue to dampen it down a bit, so that you're not drawn straight in on that side, because I want you to be drawn to the whole thing, if you get what I mean. I think it worked personally. It did dumb it down a little bit, and you notice the hikers a bit more in the rest of the painting. So that's the finished piece, guys. I think it turned out great, and it's also sold. Somebody brought it, so I must have done something right. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments, I will answer. Please like and subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.